Spider-Man had just defeated Electro in a fierce battle, but now he was feeling completely drained. The winter night was setting in, and Peter Parker could feel the exhaustion creeping up on him. He let out a yawn and a groan, his eyes heavy with sleep. But just as he was about to drift off, a sudden bout of sneezing overtook him. He reached for a handkerchief, constantly wiping his running nose as the fluid continued to flow from his nostrils. The sneezing fit seemed never-ending, and Peter groaned in a sickly tone as he struggled to keep his eyes open. The dark circles under his eyes were evidence of his fatigue, but Peter couldn't rest just yet. He had to constantly battle the urge to sleep with the need to sneeze and wipe his nose. The constant sneezing and nose wiping left him feeling even more exhausted, but he couldn't give in to sleep just yet. As he continued to battle his tiredness, Peter's head began to ache from the strain of the heavy sneezing. He was left completely drained, but he knew he couldn't rest until he had fully recovered. With a final yawn, Peter closed his eyes, determined to push through the exhaustion and find a moment of peace amidst the chaos of his superhero life. Spider-Man had just defeated Electro in a fierce battle, but now he was feeling completely drained. The winter night was setting in, and Peter Parker could feel the exhaustion creeping up on him. He let out a long yawn, his eyes drooping with fatigue. As he tried to make his way back home, Peter couldn't shake off the overwhelming need to sleep. But just as he was about to give in to his tiredness, a sudden wave of sneezing hit him. He groaned in frustration as he fumbled for a handkerchief to wipe his running nose. The constant sneezing and nose wiping left Peter feeling even more exhausted. His eyes were heavy with sleep, but he couldn't rest with the relentless sneezing attacks. The dark circles under his eyes grew deeper as he struggled to keep them open. Despite his best efforts, Peter couldn't find any relief. The sneezing was relentless, and his head was starting to ache from the strain. He just wanted to sleep, but his body refused to cooperate. As he continued to battle with his tiredness and runny nose, Peter's frustration grew. He longed for the comfort of his bed, but it seemed like a distant dream. The winter night was unforgiving, and Peter was left feeling completely defeated by his own body. In the end, Peter could do nothing but surrender to his exhaustion. He closed his eyes, the sneezing finally subsiding as sleep overtook him. The winter night was silent as Spider-Man finally found the rest he so desperately needed. Spider-Man had just defeated Electro in a fierce battle, but now he was feeling completely drained. The winter night was setting in, and Peter Parker could feel the exhaustion creeping up on him. He let out a long yawn, his tired eyes drooping with sleepiness. As he tried to make his way back home, Peter couldn't shake off the feeling of fatigue that weighed him down. Suddenly, he felt a tickle in his nose, and before he knew it, he was sneezing uncontrollably. The sneezes came one after the other, leaving him gasping for breath. Desperately, Peter reached for his handkerchief, wiping his running nose as the fluid continued to flow out of his nostrils. The constant sneezing and nose wiping left him feeling even more exhausted. His head was pounding from the effort, and he groaned in a sickly tone. Despite his overwhelming need to sleep, Peter couldn't find any respite. The sneezing fit seemed never-ending, and he could feel the dark circles forming under his tired eyes. He longed for the comfort of his bed, but the constant sneezing and nose blowing made it impossible for him to rest. As he continued to battle with his tired and sleepy state, Peter's body finally gave in. He collapsed on the ground, completely exhausted from the ordeal. All he wanted was to sleep and rest, but the sneezing had taken its toll on him. In the end, Spider-Man was defeated not by a villain, but by his own tired body. As he drifted off into a restless sleep, he knew that he would have to face another day of crime fighting with the same determination and strength that had always defined him. But for now, all he could do was surrender to the darkness of sleep and hope for a better tomorrow.